my dear students. How are you? I hope all are good. Welcome back to another class. Today, let me start English chapter number 7, The Open Window. Why elders to be respected? Is it right to be fool and make fun of your elders without any reason? So, reader, enjoy. My aunt will be down presently, Mr. Nuttall, said a very self-possessed young lady of 15. In the meantime, you must try and put up with me. Frampton Nuttall endeavored to say the correct something. Phantom Nuttall endeavored to say the correct something which should duly flatter the niece of the moment without unduly discounting the aunt that was to come. Privately, he doubted more than ever whether these former visits on a succession of total strangers would do much towards helping the nerve cure which she was supposed to be undergone. I know how it will be. His sister had said when he was preparing to migrate to this rural retreat, you will bury yourself down there and not speak to a living soul, and your nerves will be worse than ever from Mopi. I shall just give you letters of introduction to all the people I know there, some of them as far as I can remember were quite nice. Frampton wondered whether Mrs. Sapperton, the lady to whom he was presenting one of the letters of introduction, came into the nice division. Do you know many of the people round here? Asked the niece. Where she judged that they had sufficient silent communion. Hardly a soul, said Frampton. My sister was staying here at the rectory, some 4 years ago, and she gave me letters of introduction to some of the people here. He made the last statement in a tone of distinct regret. Then you know practically nothing about my aunt, pursued the self-possessed young lady. Only her name and address, admitted the caller. He was wondering whether Mrs. Sapperton was in the married or widowed state. An indefinable something about the room seemed to suggest masculine habitation. Her great tragedy happened just 3 years ago, said the child. That would be since your sister's turn. Her tragedy, asked Frampton, somehow in this restful countries for tragedies seemed out of peaks. You may wonder why we keep that window wide open an October afternoon, said the niece, indicating a large French window that opened onto a lawn. It is quite warm for the time of the year, said Frampton. But has that window got anything to do with the tragedy? Out through that window 3 years ago to a day, her husband and her 2 young brothers went off their days shooting. They never came back. In crossing the moor to their favorite slips shooting ground, they were all 3 engulfed in a precious piece of bog. It had been that dreadful wet summer, and places that were safe in other years gave way suddenly without one. Their bodies were never recovered. That was the dreadful part of it. Here the child's voice lost its self-possessed note and became falteringly human. Poor aunt always thinks that they will come back someday. They and the little brown spaniel that was lost with them and walk in it at that window just as they used to do. That is why the window is kept open every evening till it quite dusk. Poor dear aunt, she has often told me how they went out. Her husband with his white waterproof coat over his arm, and Ronnie, her youngest brother, singing, Betty, why do you bound, as he always did to tease her because she said it go on her nerves. Do you know, sometimes on still quiet evening like this, I almost get a creepy feeling that they will all walk in through that window. She broke off with a little shudder. It was a relief to Frampton when the aunt bustled into the room with a whirl of apologies for being late in making her appearance. I hope Vera has been amusing you. She said she has been very interesting, said Frampton. I hope you don't mind the open window, said Mrs. Frampton briskly. My husband and brothers will be come directly from shooting, and they always come in this way. They have been out for snipe in the marshes to do, so they will make a fine mess over my poor carpet. So, like you men folk, isn't it? She rattled on cheerfully about the shooting and the scarcity of birds. And the prospects for duck in the winter. To Frampton, it was all purely horrible. He made a desperate but only partially successful efforts to turn the talk onto a less dusty topic. He was conscious that his hosts was giving him only a fragment of her attention, and her eyes were constantly straying past into the open window and the lawn beyond. It was certainly an unfortunate coincidence that he should have paid his visit on this tragic anniversary. The doctors agree in ordering my complete rest and absence of mental excitement and avoidance of anything in the nature of violent physical exercise, announced Frampton, who labored under the tolerably widespread delusion that total strangers and chance acquit- uh, acquaintances are hungry for the last detail of one's ailments and infirmities, their cause and cure. On the matter of diet, they are not so much in agreement. He continued. No, said Mrs. Sappleton in a voice which only replaced a yawn at the last moment. Then she suddenly brightened into alert attention, but not to what Frampton was saying. Here they are, at least, she cried, just in time for tea, and don't they look as if they were muddy up to the eyes. Frampton shivered slightly and turned towards the niece with a look intended to convey sympathetic comprehension. The child was staring out through the open window with dazed horror in her eyes. In a chill shock of nameless fear, Frampton swung down in his seat and looked in the same direction. In the deepening twilight, three figures were walking across the lawn towards the window. They all carried guns under their arms, and one of them was additionally burdened with a white coat hung over his shoulders. A tired brown spaniel kept close at their heels. Noiselessly, they neared the house, and then a hoarse, young voice chanted out of the dusk. I said, Betty, why do you bound? Frampton grabbed wildly at his stick and had the hall door, the gravel drive, and the front gate were dimly noted sages in his headlong retreat. A cyclist coming along the road had to run into the hedge to avoid an imminent polishing. Here we are, my dear, said the bearer of the white Macintosh, coming in through the window, fairly muddy, but most of it's dry. Who was that who bolted out as we came up? A most extraordinary man. Mr. Little, said Mrs. Sappleton, could only talk about his illnesses and dashed off without a word of goodbye or apology when you arrived. One would think he had seen a ghost. I expect it was the spaniel, said the niece calmly. He told me he had a order of dogs. He was once hunted into a cemetery somewhere on the banks of the Guns by a pack of pariah dogs and had to spend the night in a newly dug grave with the creatures sniveling and grinning and foaming just above him. Enough to make anyone there know romance at short notice was her specialty. So everyone, the chapter is in here. I hope you all are very well understand full chapter. We will meet to the next class. Thank you everyone.